Ciao a tutti, oggi siamo con Bryan Ayers, il brand manager di Castlevania per l'Europa, e oggi siamo qui per intervistarlo per quanto riguarda il nuovo capitolo di Castlevania, quindi direi non continuiamo con altre intro e passiamo direttamente alle domande. Allora, la prima cosa che volevo chiederti è che io mi sono fermato ai primi 3 capitoli di Castlevania, vale a dire i primi 3 capitoli per Nintendo DS, e ho giocato anche a Symphony of the Night. Quindi cosa c'è da aspettarsi di diverso in questa trilogia di Lord of Shadows?
The kind of the core differences for Lords of Shadow 2 compared to the kind of classic Igavania style games are more one of different play styles. So what you get in Lords of Shadow 2 is a whole range of play styles where you have the platforming, you have the exploration, you have strategic combat, combat that's really quite tricky, and actually has like a leveling system attached to it called the mastery system, right through to something relatively new for the Castlevania series as a whole, and that's stealth and also some kind of good old-fashioned puzzles as well.
Allora, nella presentazione lei ha detto che Lord of Shadow sarà un nuovo inizio per la saga di Castlevania. In che modo sarà, nello specifico, un nuovo inizio per la saga?
Lords of Shadow is primarily telling the tale of Dracula himself as a character. If you go back to kind of Castlevania history, Dracula himself had always just been your kind of end of game goal. You know, something that you would work towards defeating. You'd have your boss fight, and then it would end. You'd see Dracula's castle crumbling. And as a character, he wasn't ever really a character. Dracula, throughout literary history and the movies, has always been a very layered character with a tale, a very tragic tale, of love lost and betrayal and let down by the people that he put trust in. This time we wanted to show that story of Dracula and the many different layers that character has. So if you track Lords of Shadow 1 through to Lords of Shadow 2 with Mirror of Fate HD or Mirror of Fate in between, it tells that story of a man who was once Gabriel Belmont, a very sort of pure heroic warrior, and how he is basically kind of betrayed by the powers that be and respect and govern his life. What we're showing is how, even though Dracula has always been portrayed as a bad guy, as the absolute ultimate villain, there's a reason for that, and we want the players to feel that maybe Dracula is that really tragic character of everything is for a reason, and yes, he is an evil guy, but there are reasons in his life through love and betrayal that got him to that stage.
Yeah. Rispetto al primo capitolo di Lords of Shadows, in questo secondo capitolo cosa ci aspetterà? Cosa è cambiato rispetto al primo Lord of Shadows?
When Lords of Shadow, the first kind of reboot of Castlevania, arrived, it was met with generally favourable feedback from fans who were looking for something quite new in their Castlevania series. But there's some very sort of key bits of feedback that we wanted to take on board. From a technical aspect, one of the things we really wanted to achieve was a free 360-degree camera. So, Castlevania had always been about exploration, but if you look at the first Lords of Shadow game, everything was from a fixed perspective, and we had this fantastic world that you could journey around, but you'd only ever see it from a very specific point. What we wanted to do is bring more exploration back into the Lords of Shadow series, because that's what fans wanted, and you could only really do that by having full control of the camera and being able to see the environment in the way that you need to see it to properly explore it. That led to the creation of a whole new engine for the game itself. So before development on Lords of Shadow 2 could even really start, we worked very closely with Mercury Steam to actually create a whole new engine for it to exist in, which also was a nice exercise, because the game really does look like it's quite the light with the new engine and the new techniques are able to do better things with the textures and the light and make a nice looking game, so
ok, thank you. Adesso una domanda che diciamo è quasi personale. Di Castlevania, della saga di Castlevania, ho sempre amato la difficoltà proposta dal 2D, quindi nel passaggio al 3D comunque abbiamo avuto una narrazione migliore, una migliore grafica, animazioni e tutto quanto, però ho sentito leggermente la mancanza di quell'aspetto sulla difficoltà, appunto, che rendeva il gioco a tratti frustrante, però sempre divertente e con molta sfida. Cosa posso aspettarmi io, che da Castlevania ero abituato a vederlo come un gioco difficile e adesso magari più incentrato sulla trama?
Castlevania throughout its entire history, going back to Castlevania 1 from 1986, has always been a very challenging title. And as a fan of the series myself, it's a game that I've always looked for a strong challenge. Platforming as a challenging gameplay mechanic is kind of one, I think, of many different difficult and challenging areas of Castlevania. So for players looking for a challenging experience, it's still there in Lords of Shadow 2, it's just maybe in different kind of ways. So platforming was maybe one aspect that was quite challenging in the old series, but then also the exploration was quite challenging in certain games, where you had different regions that you could explore within the castle, so you'd have to be constantly thinking about where you were in the world and where you needed to go next and where was your next avenue. That's kind of an element that's been quite tricky and quite challenging in the Metroidvania series, and that's something that we have kept, is that kind of feel of difficulty to that. Also, for anyone looking for a challenge in a game, the combat specifically in Lords of Shadow 2 is really quite tricky. It's not a game that you can button mash. I think if you approach it as a game where you kind of you use a set amount of combos, you get punished. We really want you to explore the whole the options available to you for the three weapons that we have in the game. Enemies will evolve as you play and kind of react in a way that there are certain ways of dealing with them. So if you've kind of not learned as a player to adapt and kind of think on the fly, I think you'd get punished. So we've got this mastery system now involved that actually allows you to level up specific weapons via trying out different combos within the game, which will then kind of make your weapon stronger. And that's something that, as a difficult mechanic to get to grips with, it's quite new, especially for a hack and slash gameplay element, and it's something that I think certainly as a gamer like myself who enjoys a challenging game will really appreciate.
Ok, thank you Brian for your time.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Questo era tutto, ragazzi, intervista con il brand manager di Castlevania in Europa, e ci rivediamo al prossimo video. Ciao!
Ciao!